and welcome back to the Sassy Mares podcast. I am Ellie.
I'm Amy.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Robin.
And we're going to dive straight in with our Canter and Controversy section. So today's controversial topic is starting horses young.
Yes, and I have some stats. So I wanted to start this episode off with some stats and figures, because obviously we're all going to have opinions, but I wanted to go for the science. However, the problem I have is the science, depending on who has wrote it or who has researched it, there's no like solid backing up of things. Like some people are saying one thing and then like this is my scientific research, and then the other paper says the complete opposite. So I'm going to read out two things. Musculoskeletal, just practicing that word because it's so hard to say. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the pros, I shouldn't do that, I'm trying to be neutral, for starting horses young is research indicates that introducing light controlled training from 18 to 24 months can improve bone, tendon and ligament strength, with some studies suggesting up to a 20% reduction in severe injury risk when training is well managed. So this is from the Department of Animal Science, Michigan State University. Alyssa Logan and Brian Nielsen were the authors of that paper. And then I have the exact other thing, the opposite, as my column. So intensive training before reaching full skeletal maturity, generally before 4 to 6 years, can increase the risk of overuse, can increase the risk of overuse injuries and growth.
Please? Was it?
Yeah, sorry. Can increase the risk of overuse injuries and growth plate damage. Studies suggest a potential 15 to 20% higher risk of career limiting musculoskeletal injuries. So that one says 20% risk of higher risk of injuries. The other one said 20% reduction in injuries. And that one was from Ray Gior, New Zealand. So I think that's what's confusing me, because I was trying to find the science to back it up, and the science disagrees with itself, which doesn't make sense, because that's not what science is supposed to do. So this to me either means that people are
Ill-informed
or twisting and turning.
I'm going to say stretching the narrative to suit what they want to do with their horse.
So we were talking before and you said that the Americans are more prone to start early.
I feel like that probably is a very large and vague subject, but I do see a lot of Western disciplines. They have like classes, like lunch line classes for their yearlings. Then they have under saddle when they're 2. So the horses are away broken, walk, trot and canter under saddle. Usually working in a frame, not like a dressage frame, because Americans tend to ride quite low. I wouldn't even call it long and low though, because it's not.
It's just low.
It's just low, yeah. You know, and they're working like that when they're 2.
Yeah.
And they work
it's not
through.
even a full canter as well. It's like that silly.
Nope.
Yes, the lope.
Lope.
Yeah, it's like the Western pleasure. They're really, really slow, over collected, and then obviously, then like they work. You have your classes the whole way up. And I don't see it very often. Like, I'm not American. I don't live there either. It's just what you see on socials. But they don't seem to have long careers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just what I see. But you very rarely see anything out there in its 20s still going.
Say your horse is fully musculoskeletally developed
So
at
what
the
we
age
say
of 2.
between
Just say, for talk's sake, right? It's fully developed, it's fully muscled. I know it's not, but for the sake of it, would you send your 2-year-old to do its GCSEs?
But what you're saying there,
But if your 2-year-old has the brain,
it needs to be a child.
I suppose.
It needs to learn. It needs to learn. It needs to learn how, basic survival. It needs just to learn how to
Be a horse.
exist.
So you're more about brain than about body when it comes to the babies?
I think if you've no brain, you've nothing. And I think a stressed horse is a disaster. I think if you're stressed, and if it can't handle stress, and if it can't handle its emotions, its thoughts, its feelings, everything like that, if it can't handle that, I don't think you've anything.
but even saying your like make-believe world there, that they're fully developed by 2, they're not though. So it's like you can't even go off that, because a 2-year-old is still in their ugly duckling phase of being extremely bum high and weighty.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you look at something that's literally so downhill and be like, here, I'm going to throw a Western saddle on? Like, they're so heavy.
Well, that's what I was going to say about, so it was the American paper that said, it kind of helps their development. And that would be probably because the American culture is to do that sort of thing. So I don't know. Can we trust the science? Like, how do you know what to
What
actually
science
do?
is
But
scientific?
people are gonna find science for either aspect.
Yeah.
Like if you're
That's what's
really
bothering me.
trying to defend it, there will have been someone at some point in time who's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
When do you know when the studies were conducted? Like, do we have a time frame to see if any was more recent or older or outdated?
I don't have it on the phone.
Okay.
I can look them up again.
See,
Okay.
I think as well, like there's certain things, I think people take small snippets and run. Like, Joe, the way tendon injuries and things, you need to sort of build back up. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
rehab,
there's
slow.
certain injuries where just leaving it to do nothing is really bad.
Yeah.
Like, you actually need to build a wee bit, do you know what I mean? You need to do something to do more. I think people are taking that and going, yes, well, I have to put weight in the bones to build the bones.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But then saying that, like if you're 2-year-olds out there in a herd of other 2-year-olds with like wee Grandpa Geldon, are they not going to romp about themselves enough to give concussion to the joint, to the bone, to the ligament to strengthen them themselves before they have to carry the weight of a rider?
Yeah.
Like if they're out actively and turn out, like would they not be doing enough like that?
But I think there's enough work that you can do that doesn't involve riding or heavy
Yeah.
lunging or anything with a 2-year-old.
Hand walk it.
Put a
Hand
head
walk
collar
it.
on it.
Put a roller on
wee
it.
poles and stuff. Like
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Put a roller on it. Put a saddle pad on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doing any damage.
Nothing's
That's-
stopping you from
that's
taking your
good.
2-year-old out in the box and bringing it to a
Exactly.
competition to see.
Yeah.
Because then when it's
good for their
4,
brain.
it's not going to be
Such
like,
good exposure.
oh my god, what's this? It's
Bring
gonna-
it,
it's gonna be
bring
out.
it to the beach to walk in the water and
like there's so
It's
much,
like a water treadmill.
there's so much mental stimulation that you
Yeah.
can do with babies.
I think if people don't maybe have the time to set aside, why do that when you could ride and get it done quicker?
like
Yeah.
a baby now.
It needs
But
to.
that's
It
probably what
needs to
they're
learn
thinking.
about its own body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs, like, do you know,
Groundwork and
you
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
you're not born knowing how to walk. It takes you like
Yeah,
you
speak
go
for
from-
yourself.
it literally takes like a full year and a half to figure it
Yeah,
out.
and you have to
Whoa,
crawl
I was
first.
walking when I was like 10 months old.
Okay.
Alright.
So
Sorry.
overachiever. And you know me.
But like you
Striving
need
for the
to.
best.
There's steps to things, and then if you are skipping all these steps, something's gonna come back and bite you.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know,
I
something's
actually
gonna happen.
wish we had a paper for like the average life of like a ridden horse in certain disciplines.
There's bound to be something on that.
You know, it'd be interesting to see. Like it's like I said, you don't like you see show jumpers out there that are still in their 20s, actively
yeah.
competing to a good level.
Yeah.
But then that brings me on to the second point I want
Yeah.
to talk about was the disciplines
It varies,
and
yeah.
different levels that they do at the young ages. So show jumping, obviously,
Age
age
classes.
classes.
Yeah.
I don't know them. Do you wanna
There's age classes to everything though, not just show jumping. There's age classes in dressage too.
what are
I'm okay.
the show jumping age classes? Can you
So-
explain me?
I think 4-year-olds or roughly a metre
Mm-hmm.
tend to not be timed. There's no times in it. It's clear rounds. You're equal first. And then you go for 5-year-olds, which I think is the same. No, I don't believe that there's jump offs in that either, and it's 110. Maybe at a final or like a big show, there might be a jump off.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to 6 and 7-year-olds, which are grouped into one class. So it's like a handicap class. The 6-year-olds jump the course at 120, and then the 7-year-olds jump it, I think, at 125, 130. And so it goes up the same as the amateurs. The
Yeah.
A's jump first, and then it goes up, and then anyone that jumped clear, A's jump the AA's first round as their jump off. So it would be the 6-year-olds would jump the 7-year-olds first round as their jump off, and the 7-year-olds I think go up to 130 for their jump off. I think. Now I don't do age classes. I don't know a lot about them. That might be slightly incorrect, but I think that's a rough guideline of what you're doing.
That's kind of crazy to me.
But that
yeah.
implies though, if you're wanting your 4-year-old to be ready by March of its 4-year-old year,
Mm-hmm.
that implies that it's been worked under saddle to a certain degree to be able to jump around a course
Yeah.
as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, it would be doing a lot of
And
hard work.
it has to be done big.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm saying, yeah, 4-year-old classes I think are around a metre.
Mhm.
So
So the
Massive to
3-year-old.
me.
Yeah, that is. It is.
so a 3-year-old skipping around maybe 80, 90s.
That can't be the most beneficial thing in the world.
Now, I'm not defending it, but you ain't getting people like us having a 4-year-old jumping a metre. There tend to be professionals that are in that industry that probably don't need to jump their horse all the time to see a stride. They probably ride enough that they can see a stride. They probably are more secure that they don't need to jump their horse every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
every day, but you know, like they might be able to just be more confident in themselves to jump on and stick a metre up on a 4-year-old and go.
Yeah, that's
Do you
a fair
know?
point.
Whereas we wouldn't. we wouldn't jump our 4-year-old's meter because we're not that confident, we're not that brave. Not
And we
defending it, but I'm seeing it from another perspective.
But they're just training the horse. We would need to train us and the horse.
Exactly, they're trained already because they're riding maybe 5 to 10 horses a day. So
That's a really fair point, actually.
do you know what I mean? So maybe they're not actually jumping their 3-year-olds a lot. Maybe their 3-year-olds are broke. Clearly they are broke. But maybe in their 4-year-old year they can just, because they're so good in themselves, they can just fire it over a meter. But then is that the good thing to do for a horse? Because then it's like overfacing it too young.
Yeah, that's another point actually.
And then you've dressage age classes. I don't know an awful lot about
I was
them.
thinking you would possibly know,
but
would you?
there
is.
Dressage girl.
I've seen a few, and I was racking my brain. My mum was talking about the show jumping actually. I know they go up to 8.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say yours go up to 7?
6 and 7-year-olds, yeah. I don't think there's 8-year-old classes.
There's 8-year-olds.
I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe that's like 140 then. I'm not sure though.
But it's not like the young classes aren't mad thing. Like, you know, you're not being asked to do really advanced things.
Is it like a prelim test almost?
I think something tells me, yeah, double check. I feel like it is similar to that. And I know from what I've seen anyway, but I have been quite lucky to photograph with some really fair judges.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've seen, it's not that judging. You see the typical narrative of like, oh, just trail your horse's head in and you get a 10.
Mm.
But that's not how I've seen these classes judged. It's been like...
Are they working on like straightness first, you know?
Going forward,
Yeah.
you know, it just...
As long as the horse is moving off the leg, it's going to get marked better than if its head was in.
Yeah, and you'd actually probably get penalised.
Yeah.
But I think that's a fair, like, realistically, if you get a young horse, your first outing's probably going to be a dressage test.
Yeah.
And if you're getting awarded for your horse going forward,
It creates a positive experience for
that's
everybody.
positive experience
And
for everybody.
everything has a free walk in it. Do you know, you will get rewarded for the stretch and how forward you are going into your free walk.
But I think that's very encouraging then for a young horse, whereas going in on a 4-year-old to jump a meter course is a bit...
Mm-hmm. Have you got
It can be the opposite.
No, I couldn't find it like quick enough without doing loads of research, but it says starting with young horse classes to 4, 5, 6 and 7-year-olds and progressing to higher levels, these classes are designed to allow horses to develop and progress through various levels of training.
So is that like the training scale then,
Mm-hmm.
probably?
So as horses mature, they progress to higher levels of dressage, PSG and Grand Prix, which would be the 7 and 8-year-old classes.
That's a lot.
That is a lot for a 7, 8-year-old to be able to be doing PSG.
Yeah.
Like that's the fancy movements. Like
Yeah.
that's like pirouettes and
But if
piaffe.
they're doing these things from 4 years old, like if they're starting the dressage journey in the 4-year-old,
I guess if
year,
they're starting it correctly
Yeah.
and they're going through that training scale
like that.
correctly,
Mhm.
those movements are probably going to come up an awful lot easier because
Yeah.
they're balanced and well rounded.
yeah.
And
So I don't
again,
think that's too crazy to be honest.
when your judge is, again, we're very lucky that we have some very fair and ethical judges. Whenever they're being judged in this way, they are rewarding, you know, the
Yeah.
basic scales of training and it being done correctly and slowly. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just drag your head in and give it a boot and get a 10.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like everything that I've seen is, I would say, yeah, I wouldn't mind aiming for those age classes because that seems like a very good experience.
Whereas if you do the show jumping, I wouldn't dream of having my 5-year-old jumping 110.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I could imagine, you know, whenever Benny's younger, taking him out, he's forward off the leg,
Mm-hmm.
he's responsive to the aids, he's, you know, working over his back, and he can do a nice little walk and a stretch in the walk, and he stops when he's asked, and he then leaves the arena calmly. Like that seems that seems okay for a young horse in my head.
Yeah.
Where it's funny that one of my old physios told me when she goes, if you're ever banning horses and you're looking at show jumpers that have touched an ace class, don't go near it, walk away from it. She says that will be riddled and ruined by the time it's 11 or 12.
That's so sad. And
I
it will.
wouldn't touch a horse that I've done in age class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horses are considered old, too young because of things like this, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like veteran classes at 12 years old, like what do you mean?
Pepper's
Yeah.
not a veteran.
Oh my god, she's a veteran?
She's 12, 12 today.
And you're
Happy
already
birthday!
you're already your young horse classes as well.
Why? Because I'm 26?
No, you're pony.
You're pony honey, not you.
You were a long time ago.
You were in a young horse class ever?
8-year-olds.
8, yes, is the end, yeah.
Oh man, I gotta start doing PSG.
Gosh darn. I wanted another 6 months of that before I had to go.
Well, she's not 9 yet. Actually, it's in June, so
Well, she's rising 9, sorry to break it to
I've
you.
got a few more months. Yeah, rising.
I love that word. Rising.
Yes, and then so we were talking about Western already. So they tend to start a lot younger, and then obviously racing start around the same age.
Racing
So
start,
They're
yearlings.
I have a stat.
I see people on TikTok being like, bringing out yearlings to that. I was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
it's crazy.
There was a post going around on Facebook. It was a race yard posted. It was a lovely photo. Like, it looked like a bunch of horses out in a hack. It was lovely and like autumnal. It was gorgeous. And then the caption was like, the yearlings out for a run or something. So those yearlings were broke and racing, like race training as a yearling. So it's literally, some of them might not even be a year old.
Fuck.
They
Is
could
it?
have been 9 months old because they were in their yearling year.
Ugh.
That's why you want your horses, regardless of your discipline, to be born as close to January as possible, because it then in theory gives them a step up.
Yeah.
Like if I had a 4-year-old that was January and your 4-year-old was August and we're both in the 4-year-old class,
It's not
fair.
mine
Yeah.
has
Year older.
significantly more time to develop than yours would.
Yeah. Because I'm actually,
That's why, sorry to interrupt you, that's why a lot of thoroughbred you would see being early birthdays,
Yeah.
because they are very, very quick for that January 1st birthday.
Benny's July,
That's quite late, actually.
isn't it? I've never, he's the first horse I've known. July. Marino was April.
Right,
Pepsi's
let,
April.
let me hit my stat.
Yep, go for your stats, girl.
So I love a good stat.
Racehorse stats, yeah.
This is the racehorse stats. So when I was looking up about just the different stats, I was trying to find science that didn't even science. I found this, and I thought this was very interesting because, right, so this stat basically backs up starting them young, but not for them, for the owners and the betters. So in an analysis of over 115,000 thoroughbreds, horses starting race training at 2-year-olds showed longer careers with more race starts and higher lifetime earnings compared to later starters.
So they're not talking about this horse as a 4-year-old is in the slaughter trade because it's crippled. They're talking about how much money they can make. off
They're
these
talking
animals.
about the money. So the racehorse industry is more likely to be starting them early because of stats like that back
More
up.
likely to get the money.
The early starters get the money, and that's what they want. That's what the whole racing industry is.
Yeah, because realistically, if you start them at 2 instead of say 4, you're
got
getting
2
an
years.
extra 2 years in earnings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying that, you know, because we would rather have the 2 years at the other end.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
later
they're not
on
thinking
in
of
life.
that.
Yeah.
They're not. They're
But
just thinking.
They know they're not going to get it. So
I don't know if
Yeah.
this is stupid or even how to really explain it, but how do they know that? Like, if they started them all at 4, why couldn't their lifetime earnings be just as high?
Yeah, who's to say they couldn't have an extra 2 years at the end?
At the other side, like
Yeah.
Ellie just said, what is the rush to start so young? Why couldn't you wait till 4?
I
Break them
think
and
I
race
think they
them
probably
then?
they've taken a stat off someone who has started later.
But I was also thinking, is it because then you have to pay for them for an extra 2 years?
Yeah, and I would say they
probably.
see money standing in the field when the money could be out in the track.
Yeah, so
Earning
you know,
more
is that-
money.
Is that why they're like start them so young?
I would say
Yeah.
so. To me,
Because it
well,
takes a lot more time and money to allow a horse to mature till 4
Mhm.
than it does to mature until 9 months old. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, now I have a real interest in racing. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Red flag.
No, like not like I want to do it. it just
I knew Benny was too thoroughbred looking. Something was up.
I
As
think
she
that's
gets her
why.
stirrups shorter and shorter. I thought she's got the wee pom-pom on her hat. She just goes around the fields. That's what... She's on the gallops.
Oh, nice.
Oh!
All coming together. Another reason.
No, like I can't comprehend that, and I can't comprehend like you could fight for your life justifying that to me, and I don't think there's anything you could say that I'd like right enough.
But that's because you're like a nice horse person who cares about the horse. If you were a nice
We're
money
in
man
it.
with lots of money,
Yeah.
you could
But
see it.
equally,
But
I
we
think,
see horse before sport. They see sport before horse.
yeah, I think thoroughbreds are fascinating. I really really like thoroughbreds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really like them.
Would you
They
buy an
all-
off the
They
track
all
one?
scare me.
Do you know what?
Based on the career, I would.
I wouldn't rule it out.
See, what puts me off is the fact that it can potentially have been raked round from it was a yearling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah, and you're not
Like
going to
the-
get as long with it as you
Not
like.
not even that. It's like mentally, is that horse burdened? Like you see them, they come with a lot of negative traits,
Baggage.
weaving, poor feet, poor guts. Like
I would
That, you know-
probably take an off the track racer before I take a cob.
Oh, controversial.
I would, oh yeah, if that's my 2 options, I would say the same.
We use both have half thoroughbreds, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a
mine's-
thoroughbred fan.
I thought
I've
you were going to
ridden-
say Loki's half thoroughbred. I was like,
No,
girl.
I've ridden a few horses that have thoroughbred in them, and I've always enjoyed them.
I had an ex racer.
Oh, yeah.
On loan or
Yeah, she
Big day thing.
She was upset.
They're like all day.
I have type. Fair enough. Have I ever had anything that wasn't I had a chestnut and a grey.
Merino, literally.
Trauma block.
Oh no.
No, I don't know. I think I've just got a real interest in racing because I'm like I think they're a really misunderstood breed.
Yeah, I agree there.
Yeah.
Do you, I think
They're so stereotyped.
Yeah, they're like hot.
Perfect.
Yeah,
like I
and
just said.
they're so gentle. I think they're really gentle and they're really like understanding.
I think all horses that
they're-
get enough love are.
So versatile though.
Yeah, well
That's
is
the
a good-
versatility of them is what I like.
And I think they scrub up well as well. They love a good thoroughbred.
There was one I actually seen for sale on Facebook, and it was the first thoroughbred that I seen that I would have said I would buy that. It was so chunky. It looked so warm bloody, and I'm not like a warm blood stan by any means. But you know when you see Facebook and you see thoroughbreds for sale, you're like, that's a rescue case. Like not to be awful,
Yeah.
but like they're usually just going for cheap. This was such a powerhouse. It was off the track.
The ones that
But
jump
My
are
God, it was stunning, and it was a lovely chestnut color, and she was so well put together. Her angles and all her feet looked great, and I was like, someone's loved this horse. Like it looked loved. Like it looked like it was almost like a personal horse, not like an industry horse. If that makes sense.
Yes.
There
It
was
was
one
gorgeous.
I was with recently, and I was like, "Oh, I would just take you home." I just totally fell in love with him,
Yeah.
and I like, he was just so my type of horse,
Yeah.
and like it was so obvious. I was like, "Oh yeah, he's coming with me."
I think any I've
You're
ever
coming
come
on with me.
across, especially like my friend Sarah, her mare Minnie,
Oh, I forgot she was a
they are
thoroughbred.
so goofy.
Yeah.
They just have so much. Like she is a lap dog. Like she's the goofiest character ever, and like she's so forgiving for Sarah. Like she's such a sweet horse,
Yeah.
and that makes me, maybe if I had the time and the money to put it into one, I feel like they could make a really really nice show jumper or like a really nice all rounder. Anything.
They're very good dressage horses.
Yeah, they've got lovely paces, like any that you do see it. But I think it's such a shame that they are like almost all swept under the same rug of troubled, hot. Yeah, just the stereotypes that you get. But like I know,
You can see why.
stereotypes come from somewhere. I would say,
Yeah.
But I think they do need to be given more of a chance. And it is quite sad that they are started so young, and a lot of them then don't have full careers, and then maybe that's where those stereotypes come from because they are being retired so young, and I think they're more prone to kiss and spine and navicular. I think they're two things that thoroughbreds can potentially have.
I just think, I would love to ride racehorses, but equally I would love to ride a racehorse started appropriately.
That's what I was going to say. Could you support that industry, and could you ride them knowing that they are started against what you think's correct?
I could ride for someone if I knew
They did
the
it right.
process.
Even if they're starting them as yearlings?
No, like the process would be that they didn't do that.
Okay. I was going to say.
The way you told them
Then, then the issue is that they probably wouldn't do it because they're not going to have like a leg to stand on in the industry.
I do know people,
Yeah.
we're not going to name names, but I do know people that start
Them a bit
horses
older.
like that very well.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done very well.
So it's like the proof's in the pudding. It can be done. It's such a shame that it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just the money sitting in the field, I think.
Yeah.
That's what the owners are all like.
But then
Rich
they all
people.
argue that they mature quicker. I've seen that argument quite a few times on social media.
Do you know what made me sad though when you were talking about like them being goofy and stuff? I was just thinking of the ones that die on the track and they just never get a girl or a man or a boy or whatever to love them that way, to be able to get that goofy side out in them. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know what way. I'm sure they always say the grooms really look after them really well and stuff, but I don't know.
I'm sure the grooms do love them. Like,
just being hammered on the track, and I don't know, they're serious athletes, like serious athletes. Obviously, they cover a lot of like distance and stuff. But then in those big races, like the Grand National was on like 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
And you were actually the one that told me that one of them had died because it was kept
Yeah.
really quiet.
I
was-
seen it on social media that it had died like a day or two later because it had heat stroke,
Yeah,
and the
heat
guy just beat it around the course.
Apparently,
he got suspended.
He got a 10-day
10
suspension.
days though.
And it had heat stroke, but apparently it fully recovered, and this was an unrelated issue. Was it potentially colic?
That's
But then
what I
I'm
heard.
thinking, how is that unrelated? Because
Surely
How
that
does it
came on from
recover from heat
stress.
stroke in?
well, I could see
10
that,
minutes.
I could see them, like it was like on the upper, like it was saying it was on the right path basically, and I can see that. I can totally see that you would have nursed that with all the care and all the vets. Like these are going to be the best of the
I
best
know, but
vets.
if it's had heat stroke to that point, it's
You can't
stressed
tell me.
itself into your colic.
Yeah, the colic
You
would be a
can't
result of
tell
that.
me colic is not related to that.
It
Yeah.
absolutely
Unless
is.
someone literally like poisoned it or something.
Another point to go off though is that the amount of stress that they're under, he probably was riddled with ulcers, and then
Yeah.
the colic with the ulcers.
Yeah.
It's like a
No, that's
concoction,
another
like, isn't
thing.
it?
It's such a sad life for the ones that don't. I don't know.
But then again,
Right, but
equally, I know
I-
we're saying about the racehorses starting.
yeah.
There's gonna be, like, that can happen in all the disciplines. I think racing just probably because we are from the aspect of like none of us race. None of us.
Racing is very publicised in
Yeah.
comparison to what other people are maybe
Right.
doing behind
This
closed doors.
episode is young horses, not the racing industry. That's
I'm
something
trying to
I
go
want.
back, guys. I'm
I know
trying to
that's
go
something
back.
I want to put back out there though, because I think if we want to talk about racehorses more, I think it's definitely a topic we could go into.
Yeah.
But this is young horses.
Well, my loop back was because that, like, I feel like the spotlight is on racing because of what you said,
Because it's publicised.
but there's gonna be like the general public don't really care about dressage. Everyone's heads about
Yeah,
They only
dressage.
do
yeah,
when
yeah.
it's in the Olympics.
Yeah, and that is like that's bound to happen. It's bound to happen in the age classes. There's bound to be cases like that when you're saying about in the Grand National. That's bound to happen in other disciplines. It's just not publicised enough.
I know.
Yeah,
I
the
know who
Grand
Greg Players are
National-
too.
The Grand National is like a UK, Ireland, like world. I don't know if it's worldwide, but it's a big event that everybody talks about. You go to work, you hear people talk about it in the shops.
People aren't even horsey.
Yeah.
But things like you're saying dressage, nobody cares in the general public who aren't horsey about things like dressage. So these things maybe happen and we just don't know because it's not literally
Yeah.
posted on Facebook by Lad Bible when a dressage horse
No,
dies. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. But like, I know for a fact people who event.
They what?
Some people who event. And there's broken and riding it.
So what is the? Do you know the event like? What's their sort of schedule? Like what?
I have no
You can't.
idea.
I don't think you can event a horse before its fourth
You
birthday.
can. You can.
So it has to be for doing an
I don't
event,
know.
and
I
is
think it's
that
5 actually.
that's actually pretty fair.
I think it
Is
might be 5.
Well,
Can you
there's-
Google that
there's-
quickly? Do for event in Ireland. I think
Okay.
it's 5.
But then they have them to a point where they've been out.
Because if you
Schooling.
remember, EI
Everything else
starts
is
is
fine.
only recently started to integrate 80s. So these 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, depending on what Amy finds out here, are starting it at a 90 level.
And it's not just show jumping 90.
It's
Like
EI 90 is big.
Oh,
Do you
5.
remember that step?
5, sorry.
Event in Ireland, horses can only start at 5. So these 5-year-olds are going out to jump 90. Now, what I'm going to say though is you're saying 90 is big. I would disagree. I don't think.
Not for an eventer.
No,
That's like a cross pull to them.
not even that though. But I don't think 90 show jumping EI is big at all.
No, not the show jumping, but
It's small.
there's some fences that'll be in the 90, the metre, and the 110.
I just think there's better things that you could be doing
With a
with a
baby.
young horse
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
Do you know, like let it be a baby, let it understand life, let it talk to its mates, let it run about a field and play and buck and be silly and rolling it all muddy.
I mean, if
And-
you're that desperate to take it out cross country, teach it to be led, put it on the box, take it to a cross country course,
Yeah.
walk through the water,
Yeah.
go up and down the
But
step.
doing something like that is going to create a well-minded horse, because if you do have a royal mess up at a fence, it's going to have its feet sorted.
Yeah.
It's going to
Exactly.
know how to do it if you're not on its back. It's easier for them to sort their own body out before you're on the
Yeah.
top.
I
dragging
see.
it
I see a
down.
lot of people, even with like 3 and 4 year olds, and their first time cross country schooling is on lunch.
Yeah.
I think that's
You do
fab.
see that quite a lot actually, especially
I
recently.
Have, I have seen that a lot, and do you know what? I really respect that.
It's a good way to sort of again teaching them about their body,
Yeah.
letting them figure it out.
You're
before
letting
you-
the horse figure it out yourself without you interfering,
Yeah.
which I think is a much more refreshing way to start a young horse at the
Same as like
age of
introducing
like
fillers and stuff.
yeah,
too.
exactly, at the age of like 4, in comparison to chucking the saddle on it too and expecting it to be out.
Yeah, like put a pair of long reins on it and just take it for a mooch. Just go for
Exactly.
dander.
Go for a hack.
Go from sand to grass. Good
Shadows, in and out of shadows is a big thing to
Yeah,
do too.
like different terrains. Let it
Take it
build
for a
bit
wee
of
dander
strength.
down the road. Let it see a car. Let it see a bike.
Here, something so simple. Wash its legs.
Yeah.
Actually,
Wash
just
its tail. Even wash its face. There's so many horses that don't like their faces being washed.
All
Put
my
it-
horses ever.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
teach it not like if something touches its leg, it's not to kick it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know, like even like gently,
Doesn't have to kick it.
Yeah, like do like go like that with like a lunge up or something around its
Yeah.
leg and just teach it not to panic.
yeah, people
Didn't you do stuff like that with Pepsi
probably, yeah.
when she was only 4?
Yeah.
Teach it like
Desensitized.
even for the sake of it doesn't need a rug on.
Put a rug on.
Set a rug on its back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
But you don't have to say it doesn't need a rug on. Might need a rug on.
Oh no way, like babies they don't really
They might though. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Stick a
probably
rug
a
on.
good
Turn the
idea to
clippers
put
on.
it on.
Yeah.
I
True.
stand it in the barn with another horse being clipped.
Turn the clippers on, get the farrier out. I know you probably have the farrier out anyway, but have the farrier out.
ass toenails.
Have the farrier out and have the farrier pretend to put nails. Do you know what I mean? Put the shoe up against his face. I've seen people do that.
Or just lift the leg.
Yeah.
Just smack it.
Yeah, there's
With
a
a
lot
hammer.
of,
Doing, doing, doing.
a lot
I know,
of
but
things
it's
you could be
sometimes
doing.
people have the farrier out to get it used to the fit if it's gonna have shoes on.
Yeah.
Just to get it used the smoke if they're hot shod
Yeah.
or the feeling of the hammer against the foot.
Yeah.
There's so
Because-
much you could be doing
Yeah, exactly.
even yourself. You don't even need professionals out to do that.
Brush it.
Yeah.
Brush it.
I should get brushed.
Have you seen like there's these like obstacle courses? I don't know if we have many here.
Do we do something like that?
Do
There's
we?
a woman down in
I did a
Balmahinch.
lesson.
She did one with it.
Yeah,
Her-
she has an obstacle
They
course.
bring like the
track. It's track.
things coming down. You like walk through like almost like a curtain and stuff.
Yeah, a curtain with like streamery things
Yeah.
and like flags blowing, and you go in the hoop and
Could
you
you
stop
imagine
and you, oh, so
how
fun.
well rounded and sensible your baby horses would be if that's how they're getting brought
Well,
up?
I did that with Elsie when she was probably 8 then, and
Yeah.
the stuff that she learned and that she just remembered, like the stuff that I was taught groundwork. She remember I sent you a video the other day, just like pointing to her, and she
Yeah.
goes that way now. That's what I learned in that lesson.
Just one lesson
and
taught
I
her
think
that.
like things like that for babies is such a good thing for them to just have in them,
Yeah.
to just
Yeah.
know these things, you know. So no matter where they go, they get passed
Going
around,
off
whatever.
what Ellie said though, that like they should be out being babies. Are you on? Do you think that horses should be left until they're 3 or 4 and then brought in and flooded with information, or do you think you should be bringing them in the summer months, not in, but you know, grabbing them out from their friends so that they learn to leave a herd, to do things like that?
Well,
Like,
that's actually on to my next point, which was going to be what would we personally do if we
Mhm.
had, like say, all our horses, no other geldings, but say they all have a foal and we've got our own from day one, what would we all do?
I
With it.
don't think for the first like year, I don't think you hardly touch it.
Really?
Yeah,
I would
I
disagree.
would
disagree. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Attacked. Wrong.
I just don't. Well, obviously, you know, you teach it how to have a brush over it and you know things like that, like
But
how
that's
to have
not
a hair
that's
colour.
not hardly touching it. That's like little bits of handling. That's like little bits of desensitization.
But I'd say that's just, you know, like it's your horse. You have to care for it. Do you know, I think there's like the bog standard that you just have to look after it if it's yours. But then I don't think so. Like nothing, not flooding it. Just, you know, little, not even little and often, little and maybe regular. So it, you know, it doesn't panic. I don't want to stress it out. Go at its pace. If it finds something really upsetting, then you sort of go, right, okay, what can I take this back a step? Have I rushed this? Do you know, this is upsetting him? Is there something further back that I could tweak or change? So I think I would, like, in terms of like actually backing and riding, I think it depends. Well, I'm saying depends on the horse. I obviously don't think any younger. Do you know, I'm talking like very, very, very late 3-year-old if you have to.
Would you say like winter or 3? Because that would be a hard
Yeah.
time to
See,
do
I
it.
think.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I think like that's 3-year-old year would be when I would start bitting and putting the saddle on the back, but I don't think. Not that I would sit on it. I'm too scared for that. But I don't think it would get sat on for me till the start of its 4-year-old year probably.
Well, unless you did like gentle, like bitten and things like that in the summer of a 3-year-old year, and then put it out.
Well, that's what I would do. I would bit, saddle, lean over.
Yeah, and
Out.
then out.
Yeah, and then would you then bring back properly and then
Yeah.
out again and then bring back in and then break and
Maybe not as long as a break,
but a bit of a break.
but
Yeah.
I would like to walk, trot, canter round the arena, back out.
Yeah, let it just get its thoughts in order.
Yeah,
But then
exactly.
people say this, but they're not thinking, they're not going like, what an excellent ride I had. Now I'll eat this grass and think all about when my mummy put her leg behind the girth and that meant that I had this canter. Like,
But they probably
they just
do
go,
think like
grass.
they probably think like that was a lot, like that was different.
But I don't think they think that much.
I think
I
they
think
do.
they do.
I
Yeah.
do agree with giving them a break, but I don't think they think. They're
But,
not
well-
like, it's not like they don't think they have the brain capacity to go and think. Like,
The longer break between like bitten, saddle, lean over is like go mature,
Yeah.
go
yeah.
go get big and strong. Come back in.
I think like the younger like from formative years, like the really baby ones, all it needs to be doing is not be
Nothing's
scared of
right.
humans really.
No, lifting its feet as well.
Yeah, well that's again like if someone asks you to lift your feet, don't put it in the head, just you know, lift the foot.
Yeah,
Do you know,
that's
just
what I
don't-
mean.
Just don't panic and don't be scared of humans, because life's alright. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can put this wee bit of leather over your face and it's actually alright.
Yeah.
And what would
Do you
you
know-
do, Robin? What age do you think you would start?
Probably 4. I think the more I know, the more
I
think.
used to always say, like,
four.
I wait till they're 7. Because I once heard that Mares don't stop growing until they're 7. I was like, why you break it then? You should be riding it. But then, do you remember, he was broken really late. He was like, I swear he was like 7 when he was broke, or maybe
Yeah.
6.
The man had issues though.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he turned out to be nice.
Mm,
Did he? He was dead on, I thought. Oh, I was going to use that as my backup. Like, he turned out alright, but clearly not. Oh. He was like a super club though. He was like jumping really big and he was really cool and all that fun stuff.
when he did, and then he just wouldn't,
Oh.
and he just would not move. He couldn't go into a dressage arena. He couldn't.
That's ironic considering her broken.
He couldn't go into a dressage arena, and he would just totally like not compute. They used to, whenever he was then being sold by the person who bought him after, he couldn't be ridden during the week. Like whenever he was being advertised, it was go out to show on Saturday to get a photo for a sales ad, and then you couldn't touch him because he wouldn't be ridden at home. He couldn't.
That makes no sense to me.
He
I don't
couldn't.
think that's to do with him being broken or late. I think that would be to do with the process of the breaking and the schooling, I would say, to be honest, because I don't like what because they're broken late, they just can't do anything. Remember the horse we knew that was broke late?
I don't know if it was breaking later. I handled well.
She was broken that late. She's only 5.
Was she?
Yeah, but she did.
Well, that would be late in considering her owner's
Yeah, I guess.
timeline.
Yeah, I think it's just when they got her. You know, they bought her, broke her, sold her.
I think 5's a nice age. 4 to 5 is
That's
a
what
nice
I
age.
was
More
saying.
nicer to me than 3 to 4.
What I was going, I think, because what I know now, like I do think I did too much of Pepsi too young. I'm almost like waiting for it to come and like bite me. Do you know what I mean?
In what way do you think you're going to run into issues?
Potentially, yeah, like arthritis and
Arthritis.
stuff. So I didn't know any better, and like you were told like to go out and do it. Like I didn't know any better, but now that I feel like I do, what's an extra year?
But isn't the 5-year-old year like the cursed year?
But I don't.
I've been told that the 5-year-old year is living through hell, unless that's people trying to make me feel better.
But why would your horse know that it's 5? Like, what's that got to
It's supposed
do?
to be their terrible twos when they know what they're doing. They
But
get their
that's
confidence.
is that
Yeah.
because they've been started when they were 3? Like, what would be the difference in like they would it be the terrible 6s if you start a year later?
I
It
thought
doesn't
that was
make a
about brain
difference.
development though, more than like body development. That's how I was perceiving it anyway. Like that at that stage of the brain, they do what I can do.
I don't know. I don't really know. Like, we don't know horses broke a year later to see compare and
Yeah.
contrast. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know, and then it's so difficult not having like actual facts to back you up because the facts back up whatever you
I-
want to search
yeah,
up.
You can
just-
pick a fact
yeah.
for anything.
Yeah.
Fact.
And I feel like whenever this goes up, I feel like it's going to be very half and half. As in, like, people are being like, no, what's the problem? Start them at 2. Do you know?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's the owner's horse.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's also like,
here we to say we don't do it.
if there's someone who does not want to handle their young horse, and I mean like,
There's some people that throw them out to the field until the 3, bring them in, break them, and go. Like, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do.
Is that,
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's poor horsemanship.
But we can't change it though.
I
Which is
suppose-
the
Yeah, but
then
crap.
that's
people
the
make a
whole
business on
purpose of the podcast. We can't
Yeah.
change anything we're talking about.
But I suppose like as well, people might have reasons for different things. Like, you know, say
You think like tradition and stuff, or
well, say like
Well,
you
yeah, that's the way it's always been done.
yeah.
say you have a head collar on yours before I have a head collar on mine, but mine can pick its feet up and yours can't.
Yeah.
Mine just maybe got a bit upset and didn't really understand getting stuff around its face.
Yeah.
But yours was like, get away from my legs.
But it's more the thing that Robin was talking about. Like, she would be a bit worried about arthritis coming sooner because she was jumping at 4.
Yeah.
That's the things that I'm thinking of. Like, it's like the issues later in life with these people that are bringing them in from the field, breaking them and selling them on. They do not care.
If that's their living, getting rid of them at that stage, then
It's not their problem to deal with anymore.
But
If it
that's
doesn't
what,
pick up its feet.
that's what bothers me. That's what I'm saying about bad horsemanship. That's what annoys me, is that they're not, if it is like people that are selling or people that are doing the age classes and then maybe they sell on it too, they're not caring about this horse's future. They're caring about themselves.
For the money
the-
now.
yeah.
They're there and then. They're not looking in to see like, oh, will it be okay? Blah blah. They're like, no, just get rid of it now. I've done what I needed to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it's down to the owner's discussion. Like, what are we to
Yeah.
You know, if that's a business, it's been going for tradition like in years.
But tradition, what is tradition when it's
Yeah.
wrong? Do you know?
And equally,
But
you
then
know,
again,
some
is it wrong
horses-
your facts contradicted themselves?
In my opinion,
Do you know what I mean?
And like,
Just to play devil's advocate here, like I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I am just, I am just saying like it happens, like, and your
And some
facts.
horses are going to have those issues regardless.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you
Hereditary,
started at
yeah.
8 or if you started at 4, it could still get arthritis at the same time.
yeah, that is true. Sometimes they do just get it as like
It's
a
probably
six, like
Like
random.
hereditary thing, like is there anything
Yeah.
to do with breeding?
There's like, and you know, how do we go back and say they both jump? You know, like there's no way to. Maybe that's why the studies are all up the left.
Possibly. But I would.
There's
you
so
would.
much discrepancy in them though. Like
You-
there's so many variables and facts. That's probably why there's no concrete study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start a study. Let's all get babies and we'll all break them at different stages and we'll keep them forever and see who's lasts the longest.
I vote, but I'm not doing the young one.
I'll ride the 6-month-old. You can't tell me though that you're talking about the 9-month-old and the yearlings. You can't tell me that that horse is gonna.
It'll break down by 3 or
It's
4.
bad.
Yeah,
Like,
like
like
that.
a you.
That's why they're
Exactly, how are you
getting
getting
sold
on
on.
that. Like its bum is up here. It's gonna feel like constantly bucking. Like
I would
it's.
feel.
Like a ski slope.
I would feel
Yeah.
unethical even going to like.
I feel like when you
imagine
get on,
standing
its back and go.
But the thing is like you said earlier, we are nice people that have our horses benefit above ours. The people that are doing this are in it for the money.
Yeah.
They're trying to make. That's why they see it as right.
Yeah.
But it is a money grab at the end of the day, I think.
Anything to do with horses is though.
I think
and
pe-
that's another thing.
I've also seen people say that if the horse is predicted to grow quite tall, they have to break it younger because it'll be harder to manage when it's big.
I've heard the
Just-
opposite though.
Really?
Just
Yeah,
handle
they
it
should
more.
be left to mature more.
Handle
Yeah.
it more and do more with it.
So I know someone who didn't break. The horse was going to be gigantic, and they were like, "This needs longer to grow, longer to do nothing to then to grow." And then I heard someone say like, "This is going to grow like 18 hands. I need to
Well,
get on it sooner because I'll not be able to get
Yeah,
up
but
there."
if
I
they're
wouldn't wanna
gonna
break
grow that
18
big,
now.
I can imagine they're gonna be very big and gangly at 3.
Yeah,
and
Like,
then they're
I'd
not gonna be
rather
18
give
hands
them-
at 3.
I'd rather give them the extra time to like grow into themselves rather than being like I need to get on immediately.
yeah,
Otherwise this thing's gonna be too big for me to handle.
yeah.
Like,
I like not understand it, but I could see why people may think like that. Oh, here, but it's smaller, it'll be easier to handle, so we'll try and do it now. Like, I'm not saying I understand that in that way, but I can see a thought process.
You don't understand it to a point that you would do it, but you can understand why people have that mindset.
I can see the thinking behind it.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm seeing what you're trying to do. I'm just not fully sure if it's right or if I agree with it.
The conclusion I've come to after how many episodes is this? Like 12 episodes or something crazy. I just think tradition just needs to leave. I just think the way we do it, that's the way we do it. It's just so wrong, and we've talked about it before.
Life has come on so much more
Yeah.
than when horses were used for like plowing fields.
Yeah,
Like that mentality that was used 100 years ago should not be getting used
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
and we've said it before, like our generation seems to be like flipping it, but I just think it needs to flip more.
But it's not going to flip at all if the industry's out there.
Or promoting the opposite.
Yes. There's no
Okay.
flipping it. If the professionals that are making the money in the industries and the industries that are wanting the horses to start at this age aren't going to change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
money's
'cause
going to be
they're
above
they're
everything.
controlling
100%.
it. The big people who are running,
It's literally their living. It's their job.
It's
Yes.
their
Yeah.
living, and like it's maybe been passed up and passed up and passed up through generations, and that's just how they do it. But they have all the money,
Yeah.
so at the end of the
Yeah, what are
day,
4 girls going to do about it?
yeah, exactly.
You
At the
say that
end-
and you get angry at me.
At the end of the day, who's going to argue when there's money being made?
Watch me get my jockey license using 8-year-old racehorses.
8-year-old racehorses? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why was that so? See, society.
I
Racehorses can do stuff at 8.
So sad. You're like, they're all dead by 8.
They're not me. She said it.
I was just confused why you said that. Okay, so now it's time to head over to the experts arena.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Dumigan. I am 23 years old and I have been riding ponies since I could walk. My mum, sister and I have been working with young ponies for as long as I can remember. We always try to buy something unbroken so that we can put our own stamp on it and then we know exactly what we have and exactly what we're working with. I have been competing in the showing world since I was 3 years old. I have had a huge range of ponies growing up, but we've mainly had Welsh ponies as that's definitely our favourite. There is a huge range of showing classes in the showing world, ranging from all kinds of in-hand classes to a wide variety of ridden classes. Ponies can be shown from foals right up to veterans in the in-hand class, but to be able to compete in any ridden class, they must be at least 4 years old and over. We start work with the ponies when they are 3 years old, just about to turn 4. However, we don't rush them. My mum, sister and brother-in-law do most of the groundwork between them, and then of course I'm the crash test dummy when it comes to getting on their back for the first time. We begin with the bitting process. We do this for a few weeks. It just gets them used to the feeling of a bit in their mouth. Then we move on to long reining. We do this with a saddle on and we put the lunge reins through the stirrups, and this gets them used to the feeling of the stirrups on their side. This process gets them used to the feeling of someone being behind them in control, and again that extra feeling in their mouth. We try to get them used to as much as possible during this process, such as walking over poles, water trays, walking down the lane, walking around the jumps in the arena. We also teach them to stand at this time and to learn our voice commands. Once the ponies are going well on the long reins and they feel confident, we'll begin to lunge them, again doing much the same as what we did with the long reins, going over poles and maybe even some small jumps. This just gives them a lot to think about, it keeps their minds busy, and it's good to give ponies a variety in life rather than just doing the same thing all the time. So after weeks of groundwork, we then begin the backing process. So I'll start by lying over the side of the saddle and getting them to walk forward confidently. Every pony reacts differently to this. Some act as if they've been there and done it all before, whereas others are slightly more worried about having weight on their backs for the first time. Depending on the way the ponies will react to this, I'll either lie over them for a few days until they feel confident, or I'll sit up in the saddle straight away, but I'll not put my feet in the stirrups, just in case they were to panic. Then I can just quickly jump off, as I wouldn't want to give them a bad experience. After a few times of them being ridden on the lunge, then I'll ride them on their own around the arena, slowly teaching them each pace. Some ponies pick it up quicker than others, and some just take a wee while longer. If possible, I will try to ride them as often as I can with other ponies. This just gives them a lot of practice and experience before entering the showing world. We also try to take them to the beach, out hacking, and even riding them in big open fields. I find it really beneficial for young ponies as it just teaches them so much. I truly believe all ponies should be given at least 1 or 2 novice years, as there's so much for them to learn and see, and there's absolutely no point in rushing them, as that's when things can go wrong. I can't say I personally have worked with a pony that has done too much too soon, but I've witnessed it and continue to witness it far too often. I feel this can lead to behavioural problems and even health problems. I personally don't think ponies should be doing open ridden or working hunter classes until they're at least 5 or 6 years old, because at the end of the day, we have ponies to enjoy them, not to hammer them with work that is too much for them, as it's just not fair on them. I feel it's more of an achievement to see a young pony you've done all the work with yourself doing well and going on to be really successful, rather than a pony that has turned sour because it's been sickened with doing far too much. I really think that starting their life with a showing career can be really beneficial to young ponies, as a lot of ponies that we have had have went on to be eventers, they've went on to be American hunters, dressage ponies, and some have even been very successful at the Horse of the Year show and the Royal International Horse Show. Of course, everybody has their own way of doing things, but this personally is just what works best for us. But thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
Hi, so my name is Wendy. I've been riding horses pretty much from before I could walk. I've done all disciplines from showing to eventing, and I'm currently pursuing show jumping. My mum bought my first pony, who was bought off the back of a lorry, full of ponies just pulled off a mountain and never been touched, and that's when my experience with young horses began. Ever since then, I've never bought a horse that's been there and done it, simply because it's just been too expensive for us. My first pony was 3 and my second was 5, and then I only had the 2 ponies, and then I bought my first horse, which was a 4-year-old, and I was only 14 at the time. So every horse I've ever sat on has been a young horse, and yeah, just trying to produce them up the rankings. I've jumped up through the rankings right up to 135. I've jumped many age classes, so yeah, I have a lot of experience under my belt. considering for all the horses that I've had. All about knowing what your horse is capable of mentally and physically. In my past experience, as I said, I've jumped up to 4, 5, 6 and 7-year-old classes. With the horses I have jumped to 4-year-old classes on, it, part of me has regretted it. Unless your 4-year-old has the brain to handle the stress, the atmosphere and has the right ability, which sometimes is a totally unrealistic expectation for young horses to have. Experience the 4-year-old age classes is always very clicky, if you could say that. I've also experienced and witnessed the winners almost picked all the time before the horses even entered the arena, just based on face value, and that's just speaking from personal experience. The rideability expected of a 4-year-old is ridiculous in my opinion. Having your horse going around foot perfect early in its career is setting it up for burnout and injuries and God only knows what else later down the line. To have the horse riding at that standard also has either been a quick fix or just for a quick sale. It's not really natural. However, over the last few years, I have seen more people keep their 4-year-olds away and not bringing them out until they're at least 5. With the 5-year-old classes, it's kind of I have a different view on it. I do appreciate 5-year-old classes a lot better. I have competed 5-year-old classes in the past, and I myself aim to do these next year with my current 4-year-old. 5-year-old classes start at 110 and range up to 120 at the end of the year, and I believe this is all down to knowing the capability of your horse again, knowing whether your horse is capable of jumping that height or not, or else you're going to overface it and just scare it and put it backwards or injure itself. So it's just kind of having the fitness and the capability of your horse. As a 5-year-old, they can jump around messy and learn from their mistakes and not be judged on it the same way 4-year-old classes would be. Touching again on your horse's capabilities, one of my 4-year-olds is confident and loves jumping and he has all the scope in the world, whereas one of my other 4-year-olds I don't believe will do the 5-year-old classes purely because I think she lacks the confidence and will need nursed around the lower heights for a bit longer, which isn't a bad thing because I don't doubt her capability in the long run. With 6 and 7-year-old show jumping classes, I've pretty much the same view on as the 5-year-old classes. Again, it's just knowing your horse's capabilities, knowing when your horse is being physically and mentally pushed. For example, a while back, 6 years ago I'd say, I qualified for the 6-7-year-old classes, and looking back, me and the horse were way out of our depth. I wasn't experienced enough to be jumping at 130, 135 at what was 15, 6, I don't even think I was 16. And neither was the horse, and at that height you can't afford to be making mistakes, and your confidence just comes down, tumbling down thick and fast, is what I've unfortunately learned. At what age do you start groundwork and why? I do believe handling your horse's capabilities from a very young age is the make or break of the horse's future. Thankfully, all our horses that we've handled throughout the years have been bought as a foal or bred by us, so they have been socialised with human interaction from before they can remember, with groundwork such as teaching them basic manners, putting a head collar, putting rugs on and off, just the simple things like lifting their feet. It really does make your life so much easier and safer in the later years when they're a lot bigger and stronger than you. I have worked with horses who have ran wild since they have been born and then pulled in at a 3 or 4-year-old, and people expect the horses to automatically have respect, and that's just not the case sometimes. And that's an even longer process again, just bringing in a wild horse and trying to gain its trust in that way. It's also a dangerous process too, because the horse knows it's bigger than you and it knows it's stronger than you, so it can just run over the top of you, and somebody inexperienced working with that could just end up a disaster. With the backing process, we usually start long and reining in the summer of their 3-year-old. Here we're teaching them just basic commands like whoa, walk on, stand, etc. only for a few weeks, and then we lie across their backs at the end of the few weeks, and then just have them walking up and down with me on their back in a controlled area, a quiet environment, somewhere that's cool, calm and collected. Just allowing them to get used to having someone on their backs. Once we've done that a few times, I get on and have them walking, trotting, going over poles outside in the arena, taking my time at each stage to ensure my horse hasn't been overwhelmed at any point, letting the horse lead it nearly, so it's like baby led training, that kind of thing. But yeah, once the few weeks is done, then they can go back to being a horse for the rest of the summer and winter and enjoy being a horse, then brought back in as a confident 4-year-old. I think the size of a horse is impacted. when they're started. Definitely, yeah. Like, I've had one of my last mares previously. She was a big girl. She was about 17-1, 17-2, and we didn't start her until she was a 5-year-old, purely because she took so much longer to grow. She hadn't a clue where all her legs at. She was so unbalanced. Fortunately, she was a lovely mare and she had lovely breeding, so we took a foal off her. And we took a foal off her in her 4-year-old year, and that just definitely let her help mature mentally and physically, and it made her all the better for a 5-year-old. And like, I was cleaning up in dressage competitions with her, out eventing with her. Physically, it helps the horse a lot more. Whereas a smaller horse, my grey horse I have currently, he is 15-1, 15-2, and he is so much more balanced compared to my other mare, she's about 16-1, 16-2, and even that hand of difference just is unbelievable. The balance between the two of them, like the 15-1 is so much more balanced compared to the 16-1 mare, which is going back to what I said in one of the earlier questions as well about my grey being ready for going up the heights quicker because he has so much more balance. Whereas my bigger bay mare, she's going to take longer because she has more legs to figure out where they're at, and it's just going to take longer for her to figure everything out. Unfortunately, I can say that I have pushed myself and a horse too far too soon. Referring back to what I said earlier on about me qualifying for the Balmoral qualifiers at 6 and 7-year-old class, expecting me, a 14-year-old girl, and a 6-year-old horse to go in and jump 130, 135 was the ending of us, really. If we had just stayed jumping at 110s, 120s for maybe an extra year, it could have been a completely different outcome for the two of us. But stops just started happening. We started missing our strides a lot more. I started backing off from a fence a lot more. Archie was becoming a lot more backward coming into a fence, and it wasn't great for the two of us. And I did lose my confidence, and the horse lost his confidence. I started sickening myself, and I was like, I'm just not enjoying it anymore. And I knew the horse wasn't enjoying it anymore, and it was just an unenjoyable experience for the two of us. I know some of them can be quite controversial views on it, but that's totally fine. These are just all my opinions and my personal experience. Other people might have different views on age classes and things like that, but yeah, I'm not a fan of 4-year-old classes personally. But to the rest of the classes, I can understand it in a reasonable circumstance.
So thank you very much to both of our experts for taking the time to give us a bit of insight into your experience with young horses, things like age classes and stuff. We really appreciate you talking about all that. It's always great to hear a different point of view. That's why we love the Experts Arena so much. So thank you very much again, and now it's time for the pony games. So our pony game today is, can you see my answers? Stop cheating.
We deduct points of Alex. Do you think I can read that?
So this is called Fool or Fiction, and these are facts about baby horses. So I'm gonna read out a little fact about baby horses.
Is this a speed round or just who gets it right?
But just facts about babies. They're all about foals and young horses. So you just have to tell me if it's true or false. Okay. So the first one, we'll do it. Just whoever answers it first wins. Oh, God.
No bing bop bop.
No bing bop bop.
No,
just shout at me, not too loud, so don't blow the mics. The first one is a foal can recognise its mother's voice within the first week of life.
True.
Mother's voice. The mom's like, come on, dear, dinner's ready.
Come get some milk. Okay, next. All foals. This is such a stupid. I should have pre-read these. All foals are born completely white.
False.
False.
Woo! I win! You got a point deducted because you read her answers.
I don't think you need to cheat for that one. Okay. A foal starts nibbling on grass and hay within a few days of being born.
True.
Yeah.
I did that first.
Because you're on a draw and you're like, no.
She's asleep.
Young horses can't be taught to lay until they're a year old.
False.
Yeah, that's just the worst.
That was in sync.
Just go to rock, paper, scissors for you get
Yeah,
the
do that. That's more entertaining than that game was.
Oh!
I won.
I'm still winning the game.
You won. No, you get to break a 2-year-old. Congratulations.
Was that the whole game?
Yeah. I just did it there now.
It's like one question!
The rock, paper, scissors are the same length as the game.
Well, I can't hit it every time. Sometimes the game's not going to be great. And it's all about improv. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for rock, paper, and scissors in this episode. I have been Amy. You can find me on @AmyCopa on TikTok.
I've been Ellie. You can find me at Ellie and Ralph 1 on Instagram and TikTok.
I've been Alex. You can find me at ab.eq on TikTok and Instagram.
And I've been Robin. You can find me at showjumping on Instagram and Robin Hartley on TikTok.
And you can find the podcast on @the Sassy Mares Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and you can search up the Sassy Mares Podcast on YouTube.